flagship episode 300 in Ibrox, baby. It's just different. I am your host, Jamie, and I am joined, as always, by Stephen.
300, guys, 300.
And Melly.
Oh, let's go, baby.
Stephen, Ange Postecoglou took his team of Spartans into Ibrox and demolished the Hun hordes. I think that's the way the myth goes, is it not? Something along those lines.
Yeah, I don't have any, Mel. Have you got anything to add to the 300 theme?
He's just going to take his shirt off. He's painted on a wee six-pack underneath. He's painted on a wee six-pack underneath there. Glorious.
We issued the warning last week. Do not dare ruin episode 300 of the podcast, but they set the hoops. Felt the pressure and stepped up to deliver a celebration for our 300th episode. Guys, it's been 300 episodes. Sometimes feels like 3,000, but
yes,
but we got there.
Also, not really 300 episodes because we lost count.
We did. But just to make sure no one has been shortchanged, it is slightly over 300 if you actually go back and count. But yeah, it's officially 300.
Don't grass us into the podcast, Polis. Melly, that was terrific, yeah?
Beating your biggest rivals in their own midden. I love that. It's what I love. Absolutely brilliant from the boys and the manager as well. It was a sort of one of the last questions we had of this team is like, can they go away in that cauldron of hate and beat them? And they did it, and we looked quite good doing it as well. Well, could have played better as well.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to sit here, Stephen, and call it a canter. We're not going to sit here and say that for large periods of that game my arse wasn't making buttons. You know, my blood pressure was through the absolute roof watching the game. But all that matters is that Celtic still stuck to their principles,
yes,
which I'm very, very proud of. And we showed a different aspect of our game. You know, we showed that we can defend. We showed that we're resolute. We've got our backs to the wall. And really, for me, the one thing that Ange Postecoglou has been going on about since the day he walked in to that game yesterday, and it will continue all season, work rate, hard work, sticking to your principles, and hard work won us that game. That's what won that game. They just could not work as hard as an Ange Postecoglou Celtic team.
No, and not only did that game answer a lot of questions, I hope that it just generally put a few things to bed forever about this team. Like some of the players that are still getting questioned to this day. I think we've been pretty fair with most people involved in the team, but there's still a few question marks. But every single person, there were one or two performances that kind of confused me a wee bit, but that I will get that. But almost to a man, the team were excellent and absolutely dug it out for a team that's supposedly questionable in defence. Sure did an awful lot of cracking defending in that game. For a keeper that can't claim crosses and can't dive to his left and all that, sure did an awful lot of pretty reliable goalkeeping in that game as well. But overall, huge, man. Absolutely huge result. That huge performance, but more importantly, an absolutely enormous result.
Aye.
There's no getting away with it. There's no point in us playing it down here. That is a massive step towards the title. I mean,
especially since on the video reaction for patrons, we were popping champagne bottles and calling the league full time, Melly.
Well, we spoke about it last week. I think you asked what could this game mean, and we said it could be monumental. I mean, 6 points ahead after being 6 points behind after the start of the January break. It's a huge swing, but also to this time last season, Rangers put us out the cup this time last season. Yeah. There's one player I think played in that. The team is unrecognisable.
League was over. League was over at this point.
And not just the team, like everything about the club's unrecognisable now. We're proud of this team. We're proud of the manager. We're proud of the players. Some of these players out there have completely turned what people think about them, like Anthony Ralston, Greg Taylor. And any questions we had about Celtic seems to be on a weekly basis. They're just answering them, and it's amazing to watch because we've seen the team play the good football. We've seen them scalp Rangers at Celtic Park. This was different. This was going away to there when Rangers needed to win. Rangers needed to win.
That's what Van Bronckhorst said before the game. It's a must-win.
And a must-win for them. Shaky start for us. A goal down. We could have folded like they did at Celtic Park, but we didn't. Within 5 minutes, we're at a goal level, and then we just seem to get better and better as the game went on. It's one of those ones that, right, how are you going to react, Celtic? Because this team reacts like nothing I've ever seen. We're barely behind in games without getting right back in it. It's tremendous. And you mentioned all the hard work and all that, but it's the character of this team I love because we're just seeing so many shades of it.
There was a word that Ange used a number of times in his post-match stuff was character as well. So that shouldn't be dismissed. That was a huge deal. And it goes towards some of the individual players as well. Some players who, again, have been criticised this season, but absolutely stood up. And as Melly described it, a cauldron of hate. But it would have been easy for teams of the past and players of the past to just absolutely fold under that immense pressure. Absolutely foul atmosphere,
especially going down so early.
Yeah, that's it. It's leaking out the telly, the absolute bile of it. And we'll get into that because some of it was absolutely hilarious, man. Some of it was hilarious, but not all credit to the team and the manager as well, because a lot of the final questions surely about this team were answered on that day.
Aye, for sure. I mean, we can go through all the team and we can discuss the individual performances, but and we will, right? But in many ways, I feel like that sort of belies the result a wee bit, because this was a unit. This was a team unit. This team were together. There was times where you're watching this game, when we were watching it, Maeda's turning up at left back, turning up at right back. Yakimakis is defending the 6-yard box. Everyone's involved everywhere at all times, and showing those points came through. And I mean, I was confident. About going into this game, because I just felt like Ange has instilled something in this team that's taken a while to get into the team. You know, it's taken a couple of months for it to get into the team, but I just feel like he's just not going to let it slip. Yeah. There's no way. And you know, my faith did weather a wee bit when that, or wobble a wee bit when that first goal went in, because I thought, oh God, is this going to repeat what we did to them at Celtic Park? Because that first 5 or 6 minutes, Melly, we did struggle to get a hold on the game.
Yeah, we did. And it's easy for a team to fold in that, because I was talking about it last week. The crowd's massive in this game, and like for Celtic to go there, and look, as we said on Sunday after the game, Carter-Vickers, Jota, like so many of the players, Hatate, Maeda. It's their first game at Ibrox, and it is different, baby, because they've not been they'll not have been to a stadium where like 49,000 out of 50 as rival fans. It's very rare you get that. So to go into that, go down so early, you could say, right, let's see what you're made of, Celtic. Answered it within minutes. So we just kept playing our game, got the ball up the pitch, and took our chance when we done it. And as I keep saying, like, this team, we go behind or we draw level, and we go, right, no difference, we'll just keep playing and we'll get back into it. And more often than not, we're right back in it straight away. And as soon as we're back in the game, you're like, well, fine, because it's a big, huge difference watching the game live to watching it back. And watching the game live, you're like, oh, Celtic maybe weren't that good, but watching it again, you're like, there wasn't that much to be worried about.
I remember thinking, especially towards the closing stages when we were getting shelled into the box, there's a lot of pressure, but they're not really creating really good chances, no. Rangers. I didn't feel like they were creating really good chances. I was more nervous in the opening 5 minutes, I think, than I was in the closing 5 minutes, to be perfectly honest with you. You two were watching the game with me.
Maybe disagree.
You might disagree. But that's 2 Glasgow derbies that... oh, wait, it's not the Glasgow derby, is it? If you're a Rangers fan. That Old Firm stuff was legitimately the most embarrassing thing that I've ever seen at a Glasgow derby.
Saying something for them.
Legitimately, all this market materials, this is the old... They were selling outside, they were giving out little paper flags that said the Old Firm on it. 100%, that's worse than half and half scarves.
I was going to say, to what degree is that different to a half and half scarf? Have you tried giving out Rangers flags instead of this Old Firm garbage? Look, it's I don't really know where to go from here with this particular theme of the last couple of weeks, because I've already made the joke last week about how they're a divorced dad staggering about the street still with the wedding ring on and all that, right? But I think I've always been of the philosophy here that if someone's behaviour gets so embarrassing, at a point it's no longer their fault. Somebody has to step in and have a word with them now. Do we need to get Hearts on the phone? Linfield? Do we need to gather Rangers friends round? Go and have a word with them.
Mate, it's over. Rangers, it's over.
It's like the wee archway saying the Old Firm. Their boards, advertising boards. This is the Old Firm. Flags outside. I didn't know about that. That only came to light, I think, it today, as we record this, the Tuesday, about the wee flags saying Old Firm. I didn't see any of them in the crowd. I imagine they'd be getting flatly turned down because...
Well, it's a PR disaster, because after every Rangers defeat the Celtic, what I do is I jump on and say follow or listen to the Rangers, and their fans are like, what is this? This is embarrassing, and it really was. And then Somebody posted on Kerrydale Street Celtic forum that old firm archway that they made. It was in the bin today. It was in the bin this morning.
Lots of lovely visual metaphors about this game. The old firm was in the bin the next day. There was a broken bottle quite literally on the pitch as well. A crashed bottle on the pitch, if you will. But now, I'd love to know, like, a genuine question, rhetorical. I don't expect an answer here, but is anyone else like this? Is anyone else like this in the world? Do you get derbies, let's say in Argentina or Italy or something like that, where it's one-sided and it's all like, oh, please be our partners in this thing?
Yeah, I suppose, like, if you could say Manchester United, right? This is, I suppose, the equivalent of Manchester United or Everton, making a name up for the Manchester Derby, just calling it like the Super Duper Derby and trying to force that name upon Man City, who just want none of it. They just don't want any part. And they're like, it's been the Super Duper Derby for years. I've been calling that for years.
It's quite different here because one team died and has come back as another team, and they're trying to cling on to that thing, aren't they? But after the last week where we don't want anything to do with this Sydney Cup because and then the board or whoever it is are trying to hand out flyers, try to shove it in their fans' faces that, no, we are wanting to be part of the old firm. Well, the fans don't want to be part of it. So some bear-on-bear action again.
It makes absolutely no sense, but, it had to be addressed because it was
funny.
Toe-curling. It was absolutely toe-curling. Celtic's performance, Stephen, let's run through some of the troops that performed so admirably on that day.
Troops is a good word for it, isn't it? Fucking shift.
Rio Hatate.
Right.
He has been the cause of much consternation in the Discord because we were watching the game and I was sweating bullets at some of Rio Hatate's performances, and we recorded the reaction as we do for all our patrons on every Celtic game. We record reactions, but we went live after the Ibrox game. Recorded the reaction. On the reaction, we were like, Rio Hatate, man. You said before the game you didn't trust them.
Yeah.
And then after all the comments have been, we talked about, mate, Hatate was fine. So I'm giving you, Stephen, the opportunity now to address.
Oh, it's quite easy to go back and watch a game knowing what the result is and say everyone was fine because it didn't lead to a Celtic loss. But yeah, it wasn't bad. Hatate wasn't bad, but I did say before the game that I don't trust him. Now, I want to make the distinction clearly here that not trusting a player doesn't mean I don't rate him. Those are two completely different things. But the reason I say I don't trust him is because I know he's a very good footballer. I've seen him do it. I've seen him play really, really well. But has he had more of those performances than bad? No, he hasn't. And that's the reason I didn't really trust him to go into this game. And then he started. And look, again, I don't think he was actually bad, but I think his fitness is miles off it. And I don't really know how much he can get away with that in a game of that level of intensity, because while I don't think he played badly, he did two or three things that you would expect out of an unfit player. One, he didn't track Ramsey into the box for that goal. Two, he played one of the worst passes of the game immediately after that, putting Celtic under yet more pressure. And three, it got to about the hour mark and he couldn't run. He was trying to follow someone into the box and was just jogging in. I think it was a gamble, but I can only imagine that, well, we saw what happened when O'Reilly came on. He didn't last very long at all, so maybe he was struggling with something. Turnbull's not ready for that kind of game, so maybe it was just the least of the gambles of there.
And I think you're right in your summation though sometimes, because these games are like, when you're watching it, so rewind the clock back, it's such thin margins.
Yeah.
So when someone just plays a terrible ball, and there was one or two I remember from Hatate where he just either passed it straight to a Rangers player or shorted his pass or passed it out the pitch, and the break is on, you think, oh God, this could be it. You're panicking about it, Melly. What did you make of Hatate's performance?
Yeah, I'm the same as Stephen. During the game, I was like, what are you doing? It was simple things, wasn't it? And the whole Ange Postecoglou thing is like, you work hard, and when he's tracking back at, 55, 60 minutes, you're like that. That's not enough time to give somebody. You can't be that done after that amount of time. You have to be better than that. And even if you are done, you can make more effort than that. But he did come a long way. But he was all right in spells at watching the game back. But as you say, you're watching the game back knowing nothing's going to come at it. But when he passed that across the box, and you could have seen it coming as soon as he hit it, it wasn't making it, and they're not tracking. Like, that's the basics. That's the basics you have to do. But the thing, two players that I thought didn't play very well for Celtic were Juranovic and Hatate. They were the two best players the last time we beat Rangers. So it happens. It may be just one of those games where you get a wee bit caught up in it, or you have a bad start and it affects your game. So I've not got many worries about the two of them long term. Juranovic sort of came into the game, and as the game went on a bit more, Hatate was better. It's just the fitness let him down. But I wouldn't worry too much about them because you can have one or two passengers, but for once Celtic had options off the bench and it made a massive difference in the game. And look, they didn't have great games, but that's going to happen sometimes. Everybody else had a cracking game.
Fellas, have you started spring cleaning yet? The carpets need cleaning, the drapes need dusting, and your lawn needs mowing. Spring has sprung and the global leaders in below-the-waist grooming have the best tools for cleaning aisle 5 in your pants. Time to clear out your winter bush and join 4 other million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by going to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping with the code TIMS. Manscaped is committed to raising awareness for the most common form of cancer in men aged 15 to 35 and is giving support for fighters, survivors and families impacted by testicular cancer as part of their We Save Balls initiative. So, get 20% off and free shipping with the code TIMS at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code TIMS at manscaped.com. It's time to throw out your old hygiene habits and upgrade your life. Look, if you weren't involved in arguments over which Celtic players were the best and which weren't with us personally on our own personal time, patreon.com/20minute-tims, where you can dig us up personally for points that we've made on the podcast, and it's all rough and tumble stuff and you get extra content. Callum McGregor was absolutely magnificent.
Oh, what a captain's performance. And look, going that goal down so early on, you need people to stand up and be counted. And when he picked up that ball and just drove into midfield, taking the pressure off Celtic, bringing us up and getting us into their half, because we'd barely managed to get into the final third before that. And then the ball breaks and Celtic managed to get the goal from you. Like, right, that's it. That guy could have just wilted in it, but he chose not to. He chose to stand up and just drive us forward, and that was exactly what we needed at that time, because the longer that game went on, where Rangers were having chance, they had the goal obviously, and then if Celtic were giving the ball away a wee couple of times, which put us under pressure, and with the crowd behind them, it could have got pretty relentless for Celtic. But Callum McGregor decided to go, nah, that's not going to happen under my stewardship, and just took us forward. And there's different types of leaders, different types of captains. Scott Brown and Callum McGregor are very different, but both can change a game for Celtic and what they do. And Callum McGregor chose it to do that and just drive Celtic forward. And thank God he's there, and I cannot wait to see him lift trophies for Celtic.
He's genuinely just superb. Callum
Good at football,
McGregor. He is quite good at football. That's the title of the podcast now. He's absolutely.
I think we've already called it. There's a podcast called Callum McGregor's quite good football.
He's a medium-sized guy. I thought from memory, I can't remember what the context was, but he is absolutely brilliant, Callum McGregor. Now, it's like we keep making the Scott Brown comparison, but it's a favourable one. We keep saying, like, we keep bringing up Scott Brown, not to say, oh, he's not Scott Brown, is he? It's like the opposite. It's quite literally, he isn't Scott Brown, but he's Callum McGregor. He's a completely different type of captain. And look at the context of this. We've replaced Scott Brown, this like born leader. It's all just busting out every pore of him, with this wee sort of unassuming, unimposing guy. Used to be a winger in his younger days, and now he is the linchpin of the Celtic midfield. Going to Ibrox with, to all intents and purposes, no fans, although what a job that 700 did. But it's, to go to Ibrox and put in that level of performance, to just drag the team back into it after a couple of minutes with that run into the box past Bassey. I mean, again, like that Bassey, big guy as well. It would have been the easiest thing in the world for him to just bundle Callum McGregor over, and probably like the referee probably would have let him away with it. But just superb. And for the first time in quite a while now, we've actually got genuine contenders all fighting out for Player of the Year.
Yeah.
I was asked recently, and even before this game, I said Cameron Carter-Vickers, because I think he's just not put a single foot wrong all season. There he is with a winning goal at Ibrox. He's got 4 goals now, and I think he's been brilliant. But people automatically say, oh, but what about Callum McGregor? He's been. I know. It has.
It's kind of like
one. There can only be one.
It's kind of like the McGregor rule. He almost gets less credit for being consistently excellent at all times, and you sort of get used to him. Tom Rogic as well, cropping up with another goal at Ibrox. You want to talk about who's the better midfielder, who's the better player, Scott Brown or Callum McGregor or Tom Rogic? You could throw his name in there. They're both better than Aaron Ramsey. They're both better than that absolute flop. I don't know how
he scored, mate. He scored, Tommy.
He scored,
Put us to the sword for 2.5 minutes.
He scored with he scored one touch.
Yeah, it was a one-touch finish. Extraordinary.
The famous one-touch finish. That's one for the bods out there that are picking up on this.
Astonishing stuff.
Aaron Ramsey, I don't care if he scored against Celtic. It's no enough. What did he pay 60 minutes or 50 odd minutes? Get hooked for Scott Arfield. How does a player, Stephen, the reputation of Aaron Ramsey come all the way from Juventus, paid 400 grand a week, to do absolutely nothing in the cinch.
It's quite remarkable. We were all kind of, before the game, we were kind of gearing ourselves up for this to be the day that he actually does something. And see, after a couple of minutes when he scored, I was thinking, I'm going to spew, man. I'm raging at this because I've been laughing at this guy the entire time. Here I am being force-fed my own medicine here by Aaron Ramsey, but that was really it. That was it. In a way, you're right. I don't want to make it about Aaron Ramsey because it wasn't his show at all. Should have been. Should have been his.
The reason I bring it up, though, is because that kind of is his last opportunity. Because for all intents and purposes, the competition is over. Celtic get one hand on the trophy. He turned up, all the fanfare. You know, he was the signing in the January window, despite all the business that we done.
It was the signing of the last 25 years.
Yes,
according to
you're
many
right.
people.
Aye, best signing since Gaza. Gaza looking like a better option now, to be honest. They've scored the same amount of goals.
Scored a couple of goals.
And then, I mean, that's it. The curtain has come down on Aaron Ramsey's Rangers career, and he's useless.
Yeah, absolutely nothing. That was all she wrote. He got a goal. Got a goal against Dundee as well. So that was pretty much it. But to go back to Tom Rogic, because who cares about Aaron Ramsey, quite frankly? We just
have to stick the boot in.
Yeah, we're having a little bit of fun about the hype.
We got a wee semi-final against them soon as well.
Doesn't matter.
That's true. But we were all shovel fed the hype about him when he came in, and you know he hasn't really done anything. But Tom Rogic, I was having a think about him as well, and I think we've just become accustomed to Tom Rogic doing it in these games. There's all sorts of talk about this player and that. Is he a Celtic legend? Is he a great? Is he that? Is he this? But it's always like James Forrest. He's done this. He's been here for so long. It's like Tom Rogic has been here through all of that as well, and I think he's contributed pretty much as James Forrest has. So if he's going into these categories, surely Tom Rogic does as well.
Other day Hundskelper.
That's
unbelievable.
I'm going off the top of the head here. I'm not sure, but I reckon he's now got 6 goals against Rangers. That's leading him into Alan Thompson, Chris Sutton, John Hartson territory there. Very, very few modern day players have got more than 6 goals in one of these either iteration of the derby here. So big time. All the chat. I mean, the commentary from Ian Crocker after Ramsey's goal was big game player, big game goal scorer.
It was painfully cliched, was it?
Oh yeah.
I'm sick of him now, man.
It's getting a wee bit tiresome.
But there was none of that for Tom Rogic, and in a way he doesn't really need it because everybody knows he turns up in these games. It was such a weird goal though, the Tom Rogic goal, because we didn't celebrate for about 3 seconds.
Melly's fault. He robbed me. He robbed me of a celebration.
Away at Ibrox, come on, what do you expect? Willie Collum's a ref. I mean, for that to happen so quickly, I was like, there's no way that's happening.
For context, as soon as the ball went in the net, Melly, and I was about to celebrate, Melly went, that's offside. And I was like, took the air out my balloon.
Well, I expected. I just thought there'll be a way that they'll get out of this, and that was part of it as well. Rogic didn't celebrate, but it's just the silence as well. It was just everything when it happened, and look, it was a decent shot for Hatate. McGregor maybe could have done a bit better, but when you see it from behind the goal, the finish from Rogic is brilliant because it takes a wee bounce up just before, and he manages to catch it so sweetly and with the correct technique that it's up and past McGregor before he can get his 40-year-old bones about. And so it was brilliant because it came at a time when Celtic were under a bit of pressure, being a goal down. It was a first sort of attack, and after we equalised there, like, right, we went a goal down, we sorted it out, let's go on and win the game now. And for guys like Rogic and that, like, you can have your doubts over him. I thought at the start of the end of last season that was it for him. I thought he was one of the guys that should have been on the way out, but it's another guy that's changed my mind completely, and I'm just like, he's only got a year left in his deal. We can maybe see him getting a new contract, because like I don't see Tom Rogic as a guy you can hang your hat on to play 38 league games, but to like have that guy in your squad as starting or one of the first subs every day of the week now.
It was a choice by Ange, wasn't it? Because he had options. He could have started O'Reilly, he could have started Bitton and played McGregor up a wee bit. There was options there. Tom Rogic wasn't an automatic pick.
You took the words right out of my mouth. For the first time in a long time, Tom Rogic doesn't have to play that level of games because we've actually got options in there. We can change things up in midfield, and he doesn't have to be the single creative outlet in the entire team that he has been in seasons gone past. We've relied on him an awful lot to be that kind of mercurial number 10 of the team, but we've got loads of creative players in there. I think we can switch things up and we can play without that type of midfielder. Or we've got guys like O'Reilly. Hatate and Turnbull, to an extent, can play different, kind of similar types of roles to him. But for a change, there's less pressure on Tom Rogic, and that seems to have brought out the best in him. And that's been the case for loads of players over the years. Like, genuine competition brings this out of genuine players. Like, if it'd be the easiest thing in the world for Tom Rogic to be like, well, I've got loads of midfielders now, I'm taking a season off, lads.
He's had enough of that.
What I want to see for Tom Rogic is, I want him to sign another contract, right? 5-year deal. Right? Grow his hair out.
Oof.
Take up the snouts and move into the number 6 position.
It would be like one of these like Croatian guys,
Prozinecki, something like that. Yeah, one of those type of players. That's his. Dyson Maeda. Never seen anything like it in my life, Stephen. I mean, we knew what the guy brought. It was something that I'd singled out before the game. I thought he was going to cause them problems. It was a performance like which I've just never seen that type of football performance before. No. I can't remember. Can you think of any player who does the amount of running, the amount of closing, the amount of graft? No. I've never seen anything like it. No, and you ever had one of those dreams, right, where something's chasing you and your feet are kind of stuck together and you can't really run? I bet that's been James Tavernier the last couple of hours. This wee Japanese face just over his shoulder, just constantly chasing him about. No, he's unbelievable. And the thing is, like, you could go and just get some Scottish teenager that's going to run about all day. Like, you could he's clever with it. Yes. He knows when to pressurise defenders, and he knows when defenders look like they're under pressure, when they're about to make mistakes. The amount of times he just nicked it off people as well. It's really hard to take in a game like that, because, like, full context, I thought I was going to be sick at one point. I was overly caffeinated and just getting myself up to high dough watching that game. But I found myself, like, looking back on it, and I kept saying the same things over and over and over again. I kept saying, like, oh, it's him again. It's Maeda again. Another guy was Greg Taylor. I don't want to move on from Maeda just yet, but I found myself saying, whenever there was like a wee clearance or a timely touch on the edge of the box, that's Greg Taylor again. He's done it again. But Maeda was the same up the other end. In fact, not even up the other end. He was left back and right back. He was absolutely everywhere. Juranovic was having a tough time in the first few. Well, he wasn't as if he was getting run ragged, but he looked a little bit spooked in the first few minutes. It took him a wee while to get into the game, so there were people coming back and helping him out. But Maeda is just unbelievable. What a talent, and I don't want to really ever boil it down to he just runs about a lot, because we've had players that can do that in the past. We've had loads of players that can do that in the past, but never to that effective level, because there's often there's like a misconception about pressing in football that just means you just run about, you just chase people down. No, it's about control. It's about when to do it and when not to do it. And Maeda just seems to have that, coupled with good coaching, he just seems to have an instinct for that. Some of the positions he was picking up, especially in our defensive area, as you said, Tavernier at times must have thought, right, I'm past him. Right, I can forget about this guy. He's up the pitch behind me somewhere, and then before you know it, he's clattering through him, picking the ball up. Yeah,
there was a point when Rangers went down the right hand side, and it was over to our left back, and he'd been moved over to the right hand side, because I think quite in the first half, Ange moved him over. I think if it was the first half, he moved him over to the right hand side, maybe to give Juranovic a wee bit of protection there, because he was struggling a wee bit, and Jota maybe have a bit more up against Tavernier, but it was over the Rangers right hand side and going down, and he was playing at right wing at the time, and he came over and shut somebody down. And normally sometimes you're like, oh, if he might be out of position for something else, but he's got it within him to get back across in seconds. The performance was unbelievable, and look, it was so much hard work, but he could be working hard all he wants. See if Giakoumakis and Jota aren't pressing, aren't going for the triggers with him, it's all pointless, because the Rangers can just play around them, but they didn't. The three of them, and look, Giakoumakis, I thought his work rate was brilliant, but I thought Jota, while he didn't do as usual on the ball, that sort of special stuff, I thought his work rate was unbelievable, and I didn't really notice it until I watched it again, but the three of them pressing compared to Rangers, I don't really remember them putting us under much pressure. There was one with Joe Hart at the very start of the game, but when the Rangers had the ball, the amount of times it went out to their fullbacks, and Maeda would close them down so much that the only option he had was to put it out the pitch or go all the way back to the keeper, because Giakoumakis and Jota were across, cutting off all the angles, and as well as that, the midfield as well. So I mean, when you're playing with somebody, we've seen it with Kyogo, but when you've got guys in your team like Greg Taylor, like Cameron Carter-Vickers, Starfelt, McGregor, then up to Maeda, if you've got so many guys like that busting everything they have, Giakoumakis as well, MD that's not goes, oh wait a minute, I maybe need to up it here. And the whole team, like, I can't fault MD for effort in the game. There was some bits of passing that wasn't great or anything, but the effort from everybody just to put in that absolute shift. And the reason they do that is because they want to, because they have to, because it's drilled into them by their manager. And Maeda, Kyogo, McGregor, these guys all embody that, and this is what Ange's created.
This is what a football team is. Compared to last season, we've got a football team here with a clear game plan that are
team in it.
They're following out, carrying out the manager's instructions. And I put a tweet out from our Twitter account earlier on asking who's the most underrated Celtic player at the moment, and a lot of people saying Callum McGregor, a lot of people saying Carter-Vickers, which I don't think I don't know. I mean, depends on your perspective of underrated. Those guys tend to get regular plaudits, and a lot of people want us to pay £6 million for Carter-Vickers.
Yeah.
But the one player in my mind who I think is underrated, especially now, is Greg Taylor. That guy is absolutely thriving under Ange. It's taken him a while. I think we just need to be honest about it. It's taken him a while for Greg Taylor, but he's just this season, especially this year, but this season, I think Greg Taylor's been absolutely tremendous. He's another one of these players who just embodies the work rate and the.
He was winning headers.
I know he was everywhere, and he's sort of taken a lot. He seems to have taken a lot of responsibility on. He's no hiding in games. He seems to be very vocal. One of the main players. When you were talking about when Hatate was towing the caravan, I can't remember, it was Greg Taylor that was shirking him. He was bollocking him for not making the run. So it was really good to see that, and I thought Greg Taylor was excellent in that game. And Greg, look, open Instagram comments. I know you've got you don't let strangers comment on your Instagram because you used to get pelters, but open them up because we love you.
Yeah, and it probably has taken quite a while, but it was signed at the same time as Bolingoli. Saw him off. Saw off Johnny Hayes. Saw off Laxalt. Bolingoli's back. Of course he is. But no, he's been great this season. He really has. One or two hiccups. I think he was poor against Bodo, wasn't he? That game, just the one game, and didn't play the other game. But again, I feel like that's kind of like the Abada thing. Like focusing just on that to say that he's not had a good season would be absurd. So I think Greg Taylor has been absolutely brilliant, and I can't help but feel, this is just my opinion, and people can freely disagree with it if they want. I just feel, yeah. I feel like he still just suffers from being an unfashionable signing.
Yeah.
It was a guy for Kilmarnock, and I think people just sort of made their minds up about him quite early on. I'll be guilty of that as well. I'll be guilty of having said.
On this podcast, we've been pretty scathing about some of his performances.
Yeah, and he's the one guy that comes up time and again, we could improve on him. Well, I'm sure you can, but it's not as easy as that, is it? Because we said after the January window, look, Ange has just gone and signed a raft of players from Japan. You're not telling me that there wasn't a left back that he could have just gone and got. See if he didn't rate Greg Taylor, could have just gone and got himself a left back for 1.5 million. It would have been absolutely top class probably. But Ange believes in Greg Taylor. Every time he gets picked, even in quite silly points this season, people calling for Scales to play ahead of him, things like that. It's just not right. And even I've made the case for Juranovic playing at left back, but I'm wrong. I'm wrong about that. I think Greg Taylor is by a country mile.
Say that, mate?
Yeah, no,
you're not allowed to be wrong.
No, of course not.
You're trying to say you've changed your mind on something. Embarrassing.
God forbid. I know.
Sacked.
That's me suspended for next week's podcast. But no, look, I take everything back. I've never been particularly scathing about Greg Taylor, but I have been wary of him, and I've probably just bought into the exact same thing as I've just flagged up. Just that kind of signed him from an unfashionable team. He's an unfashionable player. He's not a flashy guy. But look, if he was Honduran, I mean, Emilio Zagiri only ever had like one or two good seasons for Celtic, and yet he's one of these pure cult heroes. Greg Taylor, I think, is going to be as good as that, surely.
Sometimes it takes a manager, though, doesn't it, Melly? Sometimes it takes a manager, because who was Greg Taylor? Was he a Lennon signing? Or was he? Yeah, he was a Neil Lennon signing, and so he would have had a season and a bit under Neil Lennon or whatever. Last season doesn't count. Everyone gets a clean slate. Last season doesn't count even for Rangers, and I'm going to get onto that, right? But sometimes it just takes a manager to come along and get the absolute best out of a player. And I think that's what we're seeing with Greg Taylor. Like you said, it's about trust.
Yeah,
He obviously trusts Greg Taylor. Was there a period at the beginning of the season where he didn't? I know Juranovic played left back, but I'm trying to remember if that was down to Greg Taylor being injured or
Did he
not.
get the shoulder injury?
Yeah, that's right. I thought there was
early
an
on in
injury
Europe.
involved.
But I think Greg Taylor's a good player. He's improved massively this season, but he did have a few things when he came in. He was on the back of coming in, Kieran Tierney leaving. He's nothing like Kieran Tierney in the way he plays. In fact, you'd probably question the signing now. Like, why did you bring in Greg Taylor? Because he's nothing like the guy he replaced, and we were trying to sort of replicate that. But with this system that Ange plays, and like you can say, sometimes it's a good manager, but there's such contrast between last season and this season. A good manager who we've seen can dish out the team talks, who we've seen can talk to players and get the best out of them. But if you're marrying that with having a system and telling players they know exactly what to do, because it's no coincidence that Tony Ralston's having a good season, but so is Juranovic, Greg Taylor's having a good season, the centre-halves, all our midfielders are playing well, our forwards are all playing well. That just doesn't happen because the manager's decent and can talk to them. That's because the manager's very good, has a philosophy, has a style, sticks to it, and every player knows exactly what they have to do, but also they know the standards they have to hit. If they're not given 100%, they'll no start. And if they're not starting, they'll no get in the bench. We've seen players come in and out all season, like Liam Scales. He's did all right sometimes. He's not been seen for weeks now because players have taken ahead of him, Greg Taylor included, and options in the bench are better. So you can have anything, but that, as well as the manager, it has to take the player as well. And Greg Taylor, Tony Ralston, all these guys have taken the instructions on board and flourished. I mean, Greg Taylor, you're not going to see him like Kieran Tierney bombing on down the left-hand side and whipping in crosses, but coming inside and making angles and getting on the ball. He's always been tidy on the ball. He just doesn't have that pace, and he's always been a good defender. And when the backs were to the walls at the weekend a bit, Greg Taylor stood up, one of the smallest guys in the park, but put in a shift, was everywhere with tackles, headers, everything, and he showed a bit of quality.
Thought he was going to score. Thought he was going to How good would that be? Greg Taylor at Ibrox.
Well, that'd be like El Kaduri, wouldn't it?
Lee Naylor joining a long lineage of left backs that have scored against
Johnny
Rangers.
Hayes. Johnny Hayes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Jeez, Johnny Hayes. So it was just the complete performance from him. The only blemish on it was he had to go off early, but just class performance from him. The two centre-half beside him, Joe Hart as well, and like we know about the midfielders and forwards, but that gave us Celtic a solid foundation, and we can go on about this Celtic defence again and all that, but letting a goal in the first 3 minutes, what did Rangers create? Maybe 2 decent chances after that. Again, we're not conceding chances, and that's against the second best team in the league, because going into that game
again.
Well, I know, because Celtic, I think Celtic have been really good this season, especially recently. You can't argue with the form. Rangers have dropped a lot of points, but winning at Celtic Park, you're like, fair enough, it's a home game, 60,000 people, but to go there, beat them, look fairly comfortable in it, but I still think Celtic could have went up a few gears if
For sure. I mean, there's
they
a
could
couple
play
of
better.
chances.
So now we're looking at it, we're 6 points clear, we're how many goals clear, and we've beat them home and away now, and where we've got a sort of settled squad. We're the better team. We're the better team here right now. So to go from where we were, getting beat 2-0 off Rangers in the Cup this time last season, basically a full team's changed. Get this 25 points to 6 points ahead. It's an unbelievable job, and guys like Greg Taylor, Ralston, body what the manager's brung.
It's not even that, Stephen. It's only 25 points. It's a 12-point swing I'm more interested in.
Yeah.
It's a 12-point. Giovanni Van Bronckhorst came into Rangers, and we thought that was a pretty decent signing for them.
League winner. Yeah,
we thought it was a pretty decent signing for them. Oh no, Gerrard's left. They've went out. There was mumblings about, we've even got a better manager than that, and there was a wee worry there. But for me, the difference is that Giovanni's a manager with no very much substance, whereas Ange Postecoglou clearly is a manager that's got substance. And I think sometimes a manager just has another manager's number, and whereas Steven Gerrard kind of had Neil Lennon's number, I think it's fair to say that looking back, I'm starting to think that maybe Ange Postecoglou has got Giovanni Van Bronckhorst's number, because that was Ibrox, that was a very important game, and yeah, Rangers had most of the ball, but I think they ended up had 6 shots on target to our 5. As Melly said, there was a couple of chances. I think Tom Rogic had a chance that McGregor saved. Maeda was brought down the box. We had a couple of chances to stretch Abada. We had Abada. We could have stretched that scoreline.
Well, yeah, Abada maybe should have done better. Actually, there was one that looked like an amazing save from McGregor, but when you see it back, you think, it's a good save, but it's Abada has put that right in the bit where McGregor wanted it, basically. So yeah, it was a decent save. You're thinking if Kyogo had been on the end of them, but there's no
Didn't
sense
even need
talking
him.
about that.
Didn't even need him.
That's the thing, he's still to come. We've
I know.
got 2 games against Rangers and Kyogo's itching to play against them.
Trolling at this point, just leaving a bit and then saying I thought we could do without him today. Absolutely unbelievable, guys. The poor wee guy's absolutely choking to get back on that pitch. And
Did you hear what Ange said about him? He goes, he was trying to catch my eye every 2 minutes in training to show me he was fit enough to play.
Doing press ups and all that every time Ange walks past. But he'll have his day as well. But he's right, didn't need him. We didn't need him at all, and it could have been more. See, we're talking about Ange, and I think a lot of the players have been vindicated in their selections, and they're being brought to Celtic.
Yep.
Ange as well. A lot of question marks at the time, and I'm not going to do the whole thing, but I'm going to break down the whole season and where the journey we've been on with Ange. But a lot of questions over him at the time. One including. It was the standard Scottish football line. He's not going to understand what it's like to be here because he doesn't know what it's like to have to win every single game that he plays in. I think it's I just think it's the opposite now. Not the opposite. He doesn't have to lose every game. What I mean by that is Ange Postecoglou came to Celtic having been had ups and downs in his entire career. He's failed in places. He's had huge success at international level. He's won leagues in other places, but Ange Postecoglou, when he was asked in October or whatever it was, if the league title was over, just sort of scoffed at people, right? Yeah. Ange is a guy who understands that not winning every game of football isn't the end of the world, and that's exactly what we've needed this season. That approach is exactly what we need. None of this blood and guts, we need to win every game stuff. Ange Postecoglou has been in the game long enough to know that, see, if you lose 3 of your first 6 games of the season, don't talk to me about the league being over. That's not the end of the world at all. We're still working on this and we're going to get better. So I think all those questions made to look absolutely ludicrous now going at
all this stuff. You're right. In October, the press questions too.
What I love about Ange Postecoglou is he's neither up nor down after any result, and it's not an act he's put on. It's just that he's been round the block with these so many times. I'm not talking about the size of club he's operated at or anything like that, but he knows his football, and he knows that losing a couple of games, dropping a few points here and there is not the end of the world, and it shouldn't be treated as such. Certainly not internally. If the fans can react however they want, but they certainly behind closed doors will not be treating losing the first 3 of the first 6 games of the season as the end of the world and the end of the title race.
I mean, if you watch the behaviour of the Rangers fans, you might think it was the end of the world for them on Sunday. You don't want to spend too much time talking about this crap. You said actually before the game, Stephen, you quite prescient. You said this is some of the stuff that was happening. You're like, this is ridiculous. Something's going to start. You can put your own words better than I can.
I just said that. I can't remember what we were talking about, but I just said that things just seem to be getting a wee bit heightened between.
It was the fireworks and the gluing and all that.
That's right. So the silliness before the game, the fireworks in the hotel and gluing the door shut. But I've since read that with Celtic fans.
Yeah,
I don't know
what the fireworks.
No, the gluing the.
Oh
the
yeah,
I don't know. I've not read any further into it, but it doesn't really matter now. But I said before the game that things are just feeling a wee bit heightened with this game just now. The bile and the hatred and all that just seems to be getting...
Good old Scottish football word, bile.
The bile. It's never used in any other context other than Scottish football, is it? But it seems to just be getting ratcheted up. And I'm not being reactionary to what happened with the bottle and the guy pretending he wanted to come on the pitch, which we'll talk about in a wee second. What I said before the game is that it just feels like somebody's going to do something stupid at one of these games, and there we go, 45 minutes later, 45 minutes after we did that stream before the game, there was a smashed bottle on the pitch, which is, I don't know, I've not followed any of the media around it since, but how can that be allowed to happen?
The thing is, Rangers fans' behaviour, right, has been getting progressively worse for years now, and there's been a lot of stuff that's gone unchecked, and I remember saying on this podcast, I'm not trying to get too philosophical about it, but there was some pretty grotesque stuff that surfaced about Scott Sinclair when he joined Celtic, right? And it went completely unchecked. Yeah. It went unchecked for ages, and I said Scott Sinclair is the canary in the coal mine, because I think what we've got Rangers fans is just like a history of unchecked behaviour. Even this season, I read the thread on Follow. Apparently, like pitch invasions are quite commonplace at the end of the game at Ibrox now. Just people just running onto the pitch and to celebrate with the players and all that sort of stuff. And then there's stuff like you say with the fireworks outside the hotel, completely pointless. All that tells me is that they have no faith in their team to beat Celtic. They need all the help they can get for it there. The idiocy of broken glass been thrown into the penalty area on the pitch where both sets of players are going to be playing. Their game is
Aaron Ramsey's just as likely as Joe Hart to slide on that and rip his Achilles tendon or something like that.
mental. Absolutely mental. And then obviously the Celtic physio getting hit with a bottle.
Yeah.
But one thing that surprised me out of the whole thing is Rangers are a football club that are no shy of putting out statements. They put a statement out for absolutely everything. They put a statement out today to tell their fans that Alfredo's season is over. Shame. But they've not put a statement out about any of this, about their own fans' behaviour. So also the banners about unspeakable things that I don't even want to get into. The banners of that, the songs about that, the bigotry, all the stuff that I forgot to mention because it's so commonplace.
That's just you just take that as granted. For granted.
You take that because it happens every.
Barely registers.
It's insane that this just happens in a football stadium and nobody seems to mention it. Well, people do mention it, but no one within football wants to speak out about it or sort it. But you're right; it's just going to get worse and worse until the behaviour gets checked.
See the glass thing as well. I think I've seen somewhere that it was a bottle that was thrown onto the pitch and it hit the bar of the post, and that's why it smashed. Right, okay.
That's subsequently been disproven, by the way.
Oh, has it?
Yeah, a steward came out and said that wasn't the case.
No, right. Well, even if that was the case, like, still a bottle went on the pitch.
Yeah.
A bottle was going on the pitch either way. So even worse now that I know that. So somebody had broken glass and threw it on the pitch. Like, what goes through your head?
Well, that's
not an awful lot. I would imagine. No.
So you're looking there like, okay, this is a game your team need to win. They're currently losing. You throw a glass onto the pitch to try and injure an opponent into a place where your players are going to be as well. And it's just not even that. It's like you don't have it within you not to throw glass at an opponent because you think you hate somebody that much. It's Joe Hart. He's barely been here a season. He's just a professional guy. These people are they're just scum. They're
brainless. I think we're attributing far too much cognitive thought to this thing. The one guy who I did quite like, though, Stephen, that you alluded to, was the guy when Carter-Vickers scored, who's trying to jump the advertising hoarding.
Aye.
It's let him.
We had me back, yeah.
Do you want to take on Carter-Vickers? The guy's a unit.
Aye. I actually, you see when you see the unique angle, you can actually hear Carter-Vickers saying, let him pass.
But it just calms everyone down and goes, okay, you can do this.
I just saw that as silly. There's been a lot of hand wringing over that because it was a guy trying to get on the pitch. I don't think he wanted any part of being on the pitch. He got as far as the advertising hoarding, put one leg over it and then stopped doing a wee hold me back, and sure enough he was about to shout something, then he get there, like somebody grabbed him by the neck from behind and pulled him back on
safety.
Remember the guy that done it to Scott Brown that came out, he was like his early 20s and he looked like he was 40 or something.
That's right, aye. But no, and jokes aside though, again, these people are emboldened to think that they can just do that. I know
it's a club built on hate.
Yeah, he had no intention of actually entering the pitch because he just wanted to show off in front of his wee pals and all that, right? He jumped in and then get pulled back off again. But I wouldn't have been in the least bit surprised. It's like the banners and the songs that you've just not mentioned there because we don't want to talk about stuff like that on here. But it's like it's stuff like that. I'm barely even surprised anymore. I'm not surprised in the slightest that you got footage of a guy trying to get on the board.
It's not Rangers' problem now. It's a Old Firm Glasgow derby problem, isn't it? As it's framed again, like,
Old Firm yobs.
What did Celtic do in all of this? Apart from win a game.
Someone who I'd really like to hear from on it is David Tanner. Interested to hear Davy's opinion of it. Right, that's enough of that. Is the league over?
It's aye.
In Andy Halliday's words on Sports on Clyde One Super Scoreboard, Celtic have got more than one hand on the trophy.
right.
In a world where a man has two hands, he has more than one hand on the trophy.
Joe, I have to make a confession. I can't slag that too much because see, when I hesitated a couple of seconds there before answering, I almost said we've got 1 foot over the line. But see, when you've got 1 foot over the line in a race, you've won it.
Well, that's it.
So that would be just a ludicrous.
Well, it's like when people call a performance below par, where the whole objective of golf is to get below par. Andy Halliday also said that Rangers, the panic buttons set in on Rangers.
Right.
And I quite like that. Like, panic buttons as a name. Oh, just sit down. You've just got a case of the panic buttons. I quite like
sweeties or something.
I quite like that. The panic button setting. Melly.
I said before this that even if Celtic had lost this game, I'd still have faith in them to go on and win these games. I can't go back on that. I thought this was going to be a very difficult game, and it turned out to be. But to go there and win and answer another question. This team have just done it all season, and look, as Stephen spoke about Ange Postecoglou, he's not going to let standards slip. It's not going to be, win this many games. Will be, no, we win next week against St Johnstone, and then we go into the cup game, and then we get back to league duty. He'll take it one game at a time, as a famous podcast once said. So I think I can't see Celtic slip now. 6 games to go. We've got to play them at home as well. We need to win 4 of them probably. The goal difference as well. Going to take a monumental collapse from a team that's dropped 2 points since Boxing Day. It's an incredible run of form Celtic are in, and look, you have to drop points at some point. But St Johnstone next week's a home game, and then if we win that, we go 9 points clear with 5 games to go, and I know Rangers play the next day, but there's no room for error for Rangers, and they're not winning 3 games in a row right now, so it's going to take a monumental swing and a monumental collapse from Celtic, and Celtic are just playing too well. And even if you look at Celtic, and we looked at the game there, a couple of players, Hatate, Rogic, starting to tire. We brought on 2 good players.
Yeah.
We haven't been able to do that all season. We can do that now, and didn't even have our best striker on the pitch, Kyogo, so he's to come back. And if you look at Rangers, all they're saying is, if we don't have Morelos, we don't tick. We've not had Kyogo for 3-4 months now, and we're still on this huge run of wins, so we've still got one of our best players to come back. We've had injuries all season.
Turnbull's still to come back.
Hamstrings pinging all over the place. Yet, has Ange moaned about it once? Has he given that as an excuse? Not once. And this is what you get. You build up a team's resilience, you build up that mentality, and we're building towards this now. And it's another one as well, winning away at Ibrox. It's another one that gives us that confidence going into the cup semi-final game as well.
That's the first game they've lost at Ibrox, I think, since Hamilton in 30
2 years ago.
Aye.
Yeah, 2 years. Almost exactly 2 years. I think it was just.
Was that the Neil Lennon game when he went Hamilton?
Yeah.
So it was. Yeah, it was a great meme for a few days after
that.
that.
Was when he was, fuck off, Mikey.
That's right. Neil Lennon. That's the thing. He supplied us with many gifts.
God bless him. Yeah,
Meme lord.
Yeah. To this day, the meme king of Scottish football, Neil Lennon. But I said that going in as well. I was like, we're all very confident here, but we're on the verge of getting carried away, because as much as Celtic have been on this massive run, they very rarely lose at Ibrox. Very, very rarely. Certainly domestically anyway. So, going there and getting any kind of result would be brilliant. I would take a draw right now. That's the kind of mindset I got myself into before the game. But it turned out it was, I needn't have been worried, because although I shat myself during the game, I was an absolute
You said 2-1 before the game, but didn't you?
Did I say 2-1? Right.
I think you even said we go a goal behind, did you not?
I said, well,
that may be
I did actually, didn't I?
Did you?
No, I can't remember now. I think I said, I can't remember. No, I said, it doesn't matter at all, because it's in the past. But what I said was, we'll go a goal up and they'd be booing at half time. They'd be booing their own team off at half time, and then they'll get an equaliser and Celtic to snatch at the end. But it was all done by half time.
Listen, we've got a great competition in association with footballprizes.co.uk. You can enter the competition. It ends on Thursday. This Thursday, they have weekly competitions at Football Prizes. This week's competition is a signed Scott Brown shirt. A signed Scott Brown Celtic shirt, and a signed, this is the one I'm on, Ange Postecoglou. It's like a photo frame with lots of different pictures in it. What do you call it, Stephen?
I thought it was going to be a jumper there.
Collage?
Is that a collage?
A collage,
right,
yeah. Oh, you wanted that signed Ange jumper?
I do.
Well, maybe Football Prizes can get onto that. The details are below in the link of this, whether you're watching it or listening to it. Use code TIMS for 10% off your ticket. I think tickets are around £3.50. That's footballprizes.co.uk, and the discount code is TIMS. I think we did a good job there of running through everyone that deserves to be spoken about, but I think the final word, Stephen, has to go on to someone I feel like might be your favourite Celtic player at the moment. Final word has to go on Cameron and Carter-Vickers. His performance is goal. Also, though, stop calling him the fridge. That is one, it's silly, and 2, Rangers used to call George Edmondson the fridge. That's that.
Who?
Exactly. That's the only thing I remember about George Edmondson. They used to call him the fridge, and I just hate that we've nicked a wee bit of their patter for a player who's much, much better.
Patch that. No, what a star. Cameron Carter-Vickers is. The beating heart of this team Apart from Callum McGregor, he is the absolute standout player, just for me, just personally for me. I think he's been absolutely brilliant. Said it earlier, I don't think he's put a foot wrong all season.
He's unbelievable.
The only thing that edges him ahead of Starfelt, who I think has been equally good in defence, and we should probably mention that as well for the game. I feel like we've not got a long enough podcast to go into everybody's individual performance, but everything that came near that box for the most part of the second half as well, Starfelt or Cameron Carter-Vickers or Joe Hart was just dealing with it. But the thing that elevates him above Starfelt is just purely the fact that he hasn't made any mistakes at all.
Yeah.
I really can't think of any. I'm sure I could be corrected on that because no defender goes an entire season making zero mistakes. But I can't remember any from Cameron Carter-Vickers. Certainly nothing that's led directly to goals. He's scored now at Ibrox. A winner at Ibrox. He scored big goals. All of his goals with his feet, which is not what you expect from the kind of big dominant centre half.
Most of the first touch finishes.
Yeah, most of the first touch finishes, of course. But which is astonishing stuff. But I think he's been superb. It's probably come up a number of times this season where we talk about, but should you sign him? Is he really worth $6 million? Could you get better for that? The answer is flatly no. We cannot get better than that for £6 million. We could spend the next 5 years picking up God knows what for like Serbia and all that for 1.3 million and all that, and like taking total punts, or we could just go and get the real deal. A guy that is absolutely good enough for it. It's kind of like years ago we used to faff about with strikers, buying all these like cheap strikers, and then Rangers went out and went Jelavic, and why did we not just go and get that guy? Cameron Carter-Vickers, just sign him. If the deal's there to be done, I don't know what his ambitions are. I don't know if he wants to go back to England, but that's irrelevant for now. I think it's an absolute no-brainer to get that guy in because he's one of the best defenders we've had in years. And see, this defence, it's kind of been forgotten about. We've spoken about him a few times now, Julian, and he's nowhere to be seen. But that's just unfortunate that he's been one injured and two usurped by two really good defenders. But we need to remember that prior to last season and the falling apart of that and Shane Duffy being added and all that, Celtic had a really good defence. We had Christopher Ayer and we had Christopher Julian and various others that came and went. Boyata was good for a time. But these guys have come in and made us completely forget about these guys. We've not spent a single second this season ruin the fact that we don't have Scott Brown, we don't have Christopher Ayer, we don't have Vodson Edward. Those guys have been almost forgotten about this season. All good players. But Cameron Carter-Vickers is a massive part of how these guys just haven't been missed at all. Get the guy signed. It's
a no-brainer for me. That argument about you could there's better out there for $6 million. It's kind of mythical. Even if you do, some of these accounts do like to go and look at other leagues and dig out the numbers and the videos of we could go and say there's no. Just because you found a guy in the Italian league, there's no proof that you could sign that guy. You know, he's just an intangible guy that's plying his trade elsewhere. And yes, he might end up signing for a Premier League club next season, but there's nothing to say Celtic could get him. The fact that, as you say, Stephen, if the deal's there to be done with Carter-Vickers, he's in the building. If he's enjoying his football, he's by all intents and purposes, or it looks like we're going to have Champions League football to look forward to next season, playing at the highest level. If the guy wants to join Celtic, I would not hesitate, not for a minute, to give him the deal.
No, I don't think MD would now. I'm struggling to think of a guy that's come in and just looks, Kyogo maybe. So many players this season actually, but this centre half, he's came in and he's just looked like, this guy's good. And remember, we were getting him on deadline day. It wasn't going to happen. It was a very last minute loan that probably just got over the line. And at the time, we're maybe thinking, he'd be an absolute bonus. He's been one of the best signings we have, maybe one of the best ever loan signings we've ever done. He's came in, slotted in seamlessly and just looked brilliant, and he just
nothing's tested him, has it? There's not one player that we've seen that went, he's giving Carter-Vickers a hard time.
No, and you can say, maybe he can go out and get better for $6 million. Well, we paid $7 million for Julian a few years ago, and it's always, he doesn't like a bit of physicality about him. Carter-Vickers loves that. He loves it. He's got pace. He can play with the ball. He's just brilliant, and he seems to be enjoying it. And you can talk about his goal. It was a brilliant finish. Left foot rattled it in, and just love seeing him celebrate, man. He's an absolute colossus, but it's just the defensive work as well. He's just everywhere. He's heading it away. He's clearing it. Absolutely loves doing the dirty work as well. So I think him and Starfelt have got a really good partnership as well. So if we can keep that together, if we can keep this team together going into next season and add one or two players, which if we do win the league and get the Champions League football, $6 million for Carter-Vickers, it shouldn't be even we shouldn't even be thinking twice about it. I think it will just be down to him where he wants to come. And look, it's not as if he's a 21-year-old guy. He is a bit further into his career and he's not played a lot of football. So does he want to go straight back to the Premier League and test himself? If he's got options there, he'll probably look at them. But another year at Celtic and then he could move on, no bother, because Champions League football would be a lovely draw and it would give him a chance to test himself. But I absolutely love the guy, love the way he plays, and like most of the players, I love this team, man.
I don't think many people are going to think that our sort of cautious approach to whether or not we'll win the league is going to hold much water. We're sort of going, I don't know, maybe we need to, but at the same time going, we've got Champions League and we're going to get this. But, we're talking as if it's a done deal, and I think that just comes down to just the amount of faith that we've got in the manager. And I personally just have so much faith in the guy. It's just there's lots to talk about with regards to where he started and where the season's going to end, and I'm sure we'll discuss it on a later podcast. But you just round off some of the names that left in the summer, that the players we lost in the summer, the quality that left this team in the summer was unbelievable, and we've managed to do a really good job bringing it in. So I'm just super pleased for Ange that we got that result. I really do think he's got Gio's number. I've enjoyed the fallout, the Rangers, because this is the difference between us and Rangers. They're dining out and winning that title last season.
Oh yeah,
they're dining out in it. Their manager said it was job complete. Their players are no signing new contracts, and that's the difference between flash in the pan and real champions. We won 9 in a row. We lose 10, but we didn't panic. We didn't sack absolutely every single person, though. There was maybe a bit of
panic.
There was a bit. No, I mean internally. I mean Celtic didn't lose their identity over losing 9 in a row, over losing 10 in a row. Do you know what I mean? We just went out, quietly rebuilt, brought some good players in, and almost immediately came back to the level we were supposed to be. Whereas Rangers win that title once and it's feet up, legs back, and they're dining out in it for God knows how long.
Did Goldson say something about the hunger as well earlier this season when they dropped points? He said something about a few of the players have kind of lost the hunger after the achievements of last season.
That's no champions. Do you know what I mean? That's fluking it. That's flash in the pan. That basically doesn't count.
And you contrast that with something that I wanted to flag up as well. Callum McGregor speaking after the game, I would urge everyone to go and watch that as well, because that was just a couple of minutes post-match interview, still on the pitch really. He was talking about Ange and how they got the job done on the day, and he kept using the same word over and over. He said clear. He said he said things like clear identity, clear plan, clear this, clear that. I was like, right, what a difference. What a difference that is. And again, it's massive credit to not only Callum McGregor, Ange Postecoglou as well, but it's all very well Ange Postecoglou having a clear plan, a clear identity, and a clear,
needs to be a good one as well, doesn't
it? Yeah, it needs to be a good one. Yeah, not only clear but good.
That goes for the whole club though, because Rangers won the league, right, and had no idea how to build on it. Yeah. They had no idea what to do with that. They
Ahmad Diallo, mate.
They produced all the sort of fanfare about winning it and the title and the celebrations and the videos, and then. But after that, there's nobody in that building that knows how to be a title winning team. They won the title, and that was the end of it. And Dave King, I remember Dave King said, Celtic will lose the league, they'll fold like a deck of cards, which isn't the phrase, Dave King, right? It's you fold like a house of cards, right? But Dave King, and there was people going, look, Dave King's right. Look how right Dave King is. Celtic lost the league and that's them folded. Nah, we came right back, and it was actually Rangers who won the league and completely folded like a deck of cards. and that is what happened. It was yous that were the deck of cards. You won it once.
And think you'll still be watching and listening?
What? Oh, he'll definitely have one eye on us for sure. So there is a couple of games left. There's 6 games to go in this. I just got utmost faith that Ange isn't going to blow it. This podcast will go down in history as one of the all-time most watched podcasts in the world if we don't lose the league. But that league defence, that league title starts again on Sunday against St Johnstone. We simply cannot lose that game.
Yeah, well, that's it. It's the big cliche though, isn't it? But there's no point in making that achievement and showing the guts and determination to get that result, and then going blowing it against St Johnstone at home. But I don't have any reservations that that's going to happen at all. I think this team.
Mate, you're scaring me with the confidence.
I think this team appears to have the bit between the teeth. We've got players coming back. We've got some of our best players coming back. I don't think. Again, it's impossible not to get slightly carried away. The players are not unaware of their situation. We all know what a good position this is to be in. The players will be aware of that, but it's the well, it's the players' responsibility as well, but it's also the manager's responsibility to make sure nobody's floating off into the distance thinking about titles and stuff like that. We've got a job to do here.
And the Rangers players will be on it as well. They'll know that they. You saw after the game, I don't know if there was a clip doing the rounds on Twitter when they lost the game. They didn't just do the thing where they got up the tunnel. They all collapsed onto their backs, onto their knees, head in the hands, and all that sort of stuff.
Did you see the clip of the guy greeting in the crowd?
It's done.
I'm sorry, wee man, but we've got to talk about it. But it's done. It's absolutely done.
And that'll be the attitude for the stands. It'll be the attitude in the boardroom. It'll be the attitude, and the knives are out for every day. And Gio's getting it big time.
So is Ross Wilson, and look, this is what we kind of spoke about last week. I want to see how they dealt with the pressure this year because we've seen all season they've been ahead in the league. That's fine. You're the champions, you're ahead in the league. Let's see how, when we get to January and Celtic can push on. And since January, with that wee bit of pressure on them, got into February, beat them. And then since then, it's not as if they went back on a big run. They've dropped more points. And then when they had to win, when push came to shove, Celtic were pushing harder. Celtic gave 100%. They were ready for the battle and they stood up to it and they played the better football as well. We could have played better, but we went there and played the better team. Deserved to win, came out of it. And again, it's like, you got your title last year, fair enough, 25 points. That's a massive, massive gap. But now there's pressure, there's crowds. You're having to play in front of your own fans. When push comes to shove, when you go, when the Celtic equalise, when we go a goal down, there's no encouragement there. It's just ravenous bears. Whereas I think if it's the other way,
that was the noise a bear makes, Stephen.
So now
which species of bear was
do
that?
Again, Millie, we'll try and guess. Go.
Govan bear. So when it came to Celtic coming there and putting them under pressure, they did fold. They folded. They couldn't handle it, and that was must win for them. And they crumbled.
And we've shown them. We will at the end of this season. When we've got both hands, Andy Halliday, on the trophy, we'll show Rangers what it means to be champions. And champions get knocked down and get right back up. They don't win the league once and dine out on it for a decade.
No.
And they don't go out and sign Aaron Ramsey in the January window, who was basically a paint job for a car that was failing its MOT. That's what Aaron Ramsey was, a hood ornament for a car that was failing its MOT.
But that emotional bear that we've just spoken about is exactly why I go to the toilet to cry at the football as well. Don't get caught on camera. Don't cry in view of the pitch. Absolute rookie mistake.
And on that bombshell, we shall wrap up this 300th episode of the 20 Minute Tim's flagship podcast. Thank you so much to everyone who watches. Thanks to everyone who supports us on Patreon, patreon.com/20 Minute Tims. Look, lots of football still to be played, lots of trophies to be handed out, lots more games against Rangers. If that's your thing, patreon.com/20 Minute Tims. Let us cover those games for you. But most of all, thank you for watching and listening.